Teachers of Reddit, what was the best excuse for being late that turned out to be true? I had a student whose father had died and had not done any homework or prep for the geography class. From what I heard, the teacher scolded him for not doing so, but the student didn't want to say anything, presumably sensitive issue. So his best friend shouted at the teacher, "Don't you have any shame? His father died last night," and the teacher said, "I don't care." There was an audible gasp and I was in the next room. Needless to say, that teacher is no longer employed here. Dear God, what a lack of empathy. Glad to hear that person was let go. My auto teacher let me practice removing and adding the tires on his vehicle. The next morning it was about 20 minutes into first period and no sign of him. He comes running into the classroom out of breath and his hair is all messed up. He points at me and says, "What is a torque wrench used for?" I respond with, "I don't know." He says, "I know you don't know." Turns out one of his tires came off while driving down the highway. Honesty, that on him. You're an idiot if you don't check behind the student on something like that. So he didn't check your work before he drove? That's on him. You're a student. She had to take her sister to school and drive her mom to rehab. She was always late to class because her mom just wanted to sleep in. Problem was, if the mom was late or did not go, she would have violated her probation and gone to prison. I never marked her late. If she missed anything important, she could come in at lunch or after school to make it up. You sound like an amazing teacher. Thanks for all that you do. Oh man, I hope she and her sister doing well. And I hope her mom is better now. I am sure she will always remember you for being kind to her when she had so much on her plate. Thank you. Student here. I headed into school early to get some studying done in the library before my night class. I was one exit away when I was caught in a 3-car accident. Most of the expressway afterwards was gridlock with only one lane left open. I did eventually make it into my lab class 15 minutes late, with a few scrapes and bruises. My professor's reaction was simply, "Oh, that was you. Was he the one who hit you? I'm amazed you were only 15 minutes late." I regularly leave my house with the intention of getting somewhere on time and get there 15 minutes late for no apparent reason. Not a student, but one of my teaching assistants when I ran a preschool in West Philly. "Sorry I missed yesterday. My friend shot my mom." Naturally, I'm a little speechless. "Oh no, it's okay. He was aiming for someone else." When I was a manager at a pizza place, one of the employees had the same excuse and attitude, except he was the one who got shot. He lived in North Philly though. "It's cool," he said. "My bad." Well, okay then. Well, that makes everything fine. I was one of about 20 kids who were late to school. We showed up at the school office as a group, and when questioned why we were late, we said the school bus blew up. They questioned, "So the engine blew up?" The kids, "No, the whole bus, in flames. It blew up." There was much conference between the teachers, all of them thinking we embellished the story. Next thing you know, one of the admin staff has the news website open. Very obvious image of an entire bus on fire with a bunch of kids in our school uniform standing in front of it. Our late slip for class reads, "School bus blew up." If that happened, I would walk home. Bus driver had heart attack and died whilst going down the freeway. This didn't happen to me personally, but it happened in our town. Told me he got pulled over by the cops for wobbly driving on his bike and they thought he was drunk. Turned out he was just dodging all the slugs on the street. Good man. Watching out for the sluggies. They like to traverse the walkway in front of my house at night, so I always have to shine a flashlight so I don't step on them. Did he tell them he was sluggish? Edit. Thanks for the award. My first ever. Former student here. Sorry, boss, my stepdad tried to kill us last night and I had to deal with the cops. Professor just looked at me for a moment and said, "Dude, do you want to go grab a drink and talk about this after class?" Man, my English prof was a bro when I was in college. All good now? A guy in my college class missed class one day. The next day he came in with his eye covered up and medical paperwork in hand. Apparently he got pecked in the eye by a chicken. What is it with ducking chickens today? Oh, shucks, that had a hurt. School sporting event. Kid on our team was late because someone stole his windshield wipers and it was snowing out. Kept having to pull over to the side of the road and wipe off his windshield. Whoa, that's a real beep that's wiped his wipers on a snowy day. Duck that. I'd find the closest place selling wipers and buy some. Yeah, that'll cost a bit of change, but the price of not dying from being unable to see is worth it.
Nice. Please smash the subscribe button to enjoy daily AskReddit content.
I'm not the teacher, but we were told that he had a paramedic student who on their way to write their final exam rolled their car into a creek, picked up whatever books they had out of their car and ran the rest of the way to class. Obviously got there late and in tears. You better believe they had a different exam date. I missed my SAT once because the school bus got stuck in the ice. It was a residential school, so they didn't take snow days. Not teacher, but pupil. I was in a car crash on my way to school. About 5 cars involved because some jerk decided to overtake us since we slowed down coming to a turn. So a trip to the hospital to get checked, and then school 3 hours late. I had small cuts all over my face from glass flying everywhere and had a really sore shoulder. But my teachers wouldn't believe me until police showed up because they forgot to get a statement from me. Apparently some of the other involved people died. AMD the jerk got 8 years in prison. Hey Mr. Teacher, see I have my face all cut up because of glass from a car crash. I hope you are okay with that. Now you're lying, bro. You did that yourself to get an excuse. I really shoulder. When I was student teaching, I was late because there was bunch chickens in the middle of the road. They wouldn't move at all. This is in the middle of a city of 200,000 people. Freaking chickens. I finally get to school and profusely apologized to my mentor teacher, and I told her why I was late, thinking it sounded ridiculous. She said, "Yeah, those chickens are ducking beeps. They surrounded my car in the McDonald's parking lot last year. Don't worry about." Yeah, those chickens are ducking beeps. They surrounded my car in the McDonald's parking lot last year. Don't worry about. They were protesting the McChicken sandwich. An entire flock herd of sheep was on the highway when I was trying to get to school. Could have had free lamb chops, but I got out and helped the police and farmers chase their sheep down Lmayo. This was probably 5:36 AM, so there were some cars, but it wasn't too bad, thankfully. I had a 6-year-old turn up late to her lesson and blurt out, "Sorry I was late. I had to color in a bunny." Seems fair. Can't blame her. Coloring the bunny is an important job after all. Sounds like she has her priorities in order. In high school I biked to class. One day I hit a rock and ate absolute shocks. I obviously got to class late. Before I could say a word, my teacher stopped class and said, "Thank you for finally joining us. Why are you so late?" I raised my heavily bloodied hands and elbows. It must have looked bad because she audibly gasped and rushed me to the school nurse, apologizing non-stop the entire way. Edit. My B. I'm not a teacher. Good for her for apologizing and getting you looked after, at least. Reminds me of the time I stacked it skating to school and ended up in the nurse's office. She said I was just bruised and my mum believed her. Turns out my elbow was broken. Oop. In my hometown, if you walked into anywhere late and said the phrase "sorry, grain train," you were never challenged. It was extremely common for 50+ carriage trains to run through the middle of town. Thunder Bay, with you there. Trains are a legitimate excuse where I'm from. Bear on the backyard. No access gate. Animal control had to trank it from the room and drag it through the house. Made the news. Got to retake the test I missed after sending her the news article. Still have access to the article? I kinda wanna see it too. I'm Pink, a fair-skinned student. Age 10. Went with a friend to the Holi festival at a nearby Hindu temple where she was covered with red powder and dyed bright red from head to toe. Her mother, another teacher at the school, had made her sit for hours in the bathtub to soak it off. But even after another round of early morning shower scrubbing, she arrived at school a pleasant shade of pink. Technically, she wasn't late, but she stayed in her mother's classroom until the bell rang. Teachers' kids basically live in a ruleless society or an extremely strict one. As a Hindu, I have arrived to school in mixed shade of purple, yellow, pink, and brown. I was the student. My neighbor had a really social goat, and she figured out how to escape her pen in order to come over and hang out. She escaped and followed me to the bus stop, and when the bus came, she tried to follow me onto it. I couldn't actually get on the bus without her being right behind me, so I had to get off, bring her home, and call my dad to bring me to school. Edit. Spelling. My neighbor had a really social goat is the best thing I've read today. Thank you. LOL. Some might call it an scapegoat. Taught a group of seniors first period. It was towards the end of the year. I had a class of around 30 and only 5 were there when the bell rang. Halfway through class the rest of them show up. They went out to Cracker Barrel for breakfast and brought me some back. All was forgiven. I feel bad for the 5 that weren't invited. Or should I say 6 since you weren't either? Senior ditch day was awesome. Went to the zoo with some friends.
Nice. Please smash the subscribe button to enjoy daily AskReddit content.
I had a chemistry professor show up about 15 minutes late. Just when people were about to leave, he shows up and explains that he was just in a car accident. His car had been in a rollover and he still showed up. He said he was okay. He drove a Volvo. Ah, yes. The Nokia of cars. Seems appropriate. Volvo is Latin for I turn roll. My best friend and I used to roller skate to school and one day we both forgot to put our shoes in our backpacks. So we skated to the vice principal's office and got to skip first period to go home for shoes. We stopped at Taco Bell on the way back for breakfast because we figured we were already excused. I had a teacher in high school that would tell us if we're gonna be late to pick up coffee because 2 minutes late is the same as 15 inches. UK. A student couldn't submit an assignment on time as the Wi-Fi was down on the megabus. Edit. Cheers for all the love and I'll be sure to tell the student his megabus mishap is relatable across the globe. Standard to be honest. At my uni this was fully not an excuse. On you to have an internet connection when you make your submission. Or even better submit early. We had an exam in my class and the teacher got a message from a student saying that he was going to be late because his car had a flat tire. The student was known to party. The teacher didn't think it could be true. So as a joke the teacher asked him to bring the tire back. He brought the flat tire back in the middle of the exam. Needless to say, the professor didn't expect that. That student had been partying. Drives to school, takes off tire, punctures it, and bobs your Auntie Mary. Epic. Not me, but one of my good friends. She went to the Royal Military College of Canada, where they wear their uniforms and there are often tourists visiting the campus. Apparently, it was completely normal to be waylaid by tourists looking to have their photos taken with students in uniform that all they had to say when they walked in late was tourists and the professors would let it slide. She always wondered how many family photos she was actually in over her time spent there. This is so unbelievably Canadian to me. My dad did something like this. Basically in the late 70s early 80s he would photobomb people at Disneyland. He always jokes that there are a bunch of people with his dumbbells in the background. Me. My bus hit a bird and the whole windshield was cracked. We had to wait for another bus to pick us up. Not a teacher but a friend said his house blew away. Apparently, tornado may have been my house and took about a week off from school to help clean up my house. I live in Nashville. We had tornadoes 2 nights ago and my friend's house was devastated. Thankfully, mine is, for the most part, fine. Not a teacher, but I was training a new hire at a job and the guy came in 45 minutes late stating he got halfway to work and realized he didn't have shoes on. It was winter and like 15 degrees outside. I did that in high school once. Mum got so mad at me. I can totally buy that. Yesterday I got halfway to my daughter's school before realizing I was wearing my slippers. Didn't bother to turn around, though, just decided to own it. This was me as a student. My parents thought I get President's Day off so they didn't wake me up. Just out of curiosity. How old were you at the time? Strange, I live in southern US too and we get President's Day off. Flock of wild turkeys in the road. Not always school, but this happened more than once in my life. For those of you who have never found yourselves in this situation, there is no way out of it. Wild turkeys will move when they damn well decide to do so, and only then. Never been in the situation, but I've met some wild turkeys. They truly don't care. Yeah, you can even nudge them with your car, and they will just look at you with that duck you look in their eyes and still not move. Canada geese do that, too.
Nice. Please smash the subscribe button to enjoy daily AskReddit content.
A kid missed my first period class one morning, but was in school later that day. When I asked him why he hadn't arrived in time for my course, he said his cow was birthing its calf that morning, so he'd picked being in the barn over English. Made sense to me. His essays weren't going to win any ribbons at the county fair, but his calf could. This happens all the time at my school. His essays weren't going to win any ribbons at the county fair, but his calf could. This sentence warmed my heart. Thank you. A kid's apartment burned down overnight. He was a little late, but still came. Well, being at school would be better than on the streets. Now that's dedication. I had a teacher who showed up about halfway through the class. Apparently her car had slid. Intense snowstorm the night before, and she had walked the last mile or so. That's dedication to students. My goats got out. Are you the neighbor of you shoppy 33 inches? Why the duck do so many people in this thread own goats? And why do so many people own goats in general? Because they sound like little shocks who always make people late. I am a teacher, but this happened when I was a student. Does it count? In high school a kid came late to history class. He was a joker, so when someone asked him where he had been, he'd go, "I was kidnapped." Everyone laughed, until he goes, "No really. Turns out two guys kidnapped him and tossed him into the back of the minivan he was using for his morning paper route. They drove him around while they robbed something. I can't remember what happens after. I think they just drove the van somewhere and got away. He showed up after that. Can't believe this has no replies, LMAO. That's gnarly." I was a student. When I was in college I opened my front door to CS teams and D agents outside of my house. The one who looked at me was holding some kind of AR. I went back inside. From what I heard, there was a multiple sting operation that happened around my town and my neighbor's place got raided. I missed half of my classes that day. Damn ye, that's when you close the door and go back to the bed. Why are you late? Sorry. I couldn't drive until my eyes recovered from a stray flashbang. My car got hit by lightning. It did. In the school parking lot. Her tires were melted to the pavement. She had to go out and deal with the tow truck, call her parents, etc. It was pretty dramatic. Jesus. My car was hit by lightning twice and it never melted my tires. That feels like some fantastical threat from a mythical god. Not a teacher, but I was hit by a car on my bike to uni and my prof was more than understanding as to why I was late. Ouch. Hope you're doing better now. Not a teacher, but a kid walked into my class one day and literally just said, "Sorry, I'm late. I didn't want to be here." He wasn't wrong, I suppose. As an educator, I'd give him credit for honesty. My favorite honest reason for turning up late is, "Sorry, I arrived late. I left late." One of my organ students told me he was late arriving for his lesson because he got stuck behind a lengthy funeral procession en route to the cemetery. I knew he was telling the truth because I had played the organ for the service earlier that morning and the church was packed. After that first paragraph I had some really wild ideas about what you would be teaching to your organ students. Wait, wouldn't he have still got to the lesson before you if you were at the service?
Nice. Please smash the subscribe button to enjoy daily AskReddit content.